Okay, I hope we're online. Let's see. We're online? No, not yet. Yep, I'm online. Okay, good. Okay, let's close this before we get some bad feedback. Minimize this. Bloop. Okay, and let's increase the font a bit. Okay, hi everybody. I don't know how many people join me, but we'll do that, and then I'll also upload to YouTube. So if anyone missed it, or if you want to watch it again, you can watch it on YouTube. I'll link the video in a reply to the tweet. And with that out of the way, this is a problem we're going to solve. So given a string and a number of lines, print the string in zigzag form. So this is an example. This is a zigzag. And let's jump right in. So the first thing we do is we notice that everything has a depth, right? T is at depth 0, H is at depth 1, and the depth doesn't seem to depend on the letters, right? Just on K. So let's first generate the list of depths. So we'll call it generate depth. And the only thing that will depend on the string is like how many, right? How many depths we need to generate. Okay, and okay, so well, clearly we need to generate a string, a list of length how many. So this is how we're gonna do it, and initialize. Tube to tube, and then let's first do all zeros. So this is obviously wrong, but this will at least give us the right shape of the function. And now let's check that it works. Generate depth with 4, and len of this is zigzag. And this is why it's good to kind of first have a rough version so we can get like the easy errors out of the way. Okay, and we can even, so one nice trick I like to do when I'm debugging is automatically put a call to the function right here. So we can erase that. So now whenever I change the function, so the next version we will just append I, right? So this will create depths that keep increasing. So that's good. Okay, but now we want to actually do the right thing. So we'll start with the initial depth is 0. And initial sign is +1. Right, because we know that first we increase this. Okay, so we do ret.append, and instead of calling it initial, we'll call it current because we want to update those. Ret append current depth, and current depth plus equal sign. And this actually won't change anything, except it's current sign. But as we can see, this already kind of shows us a bug. So this is why it's kind of nice to write this. Okay, so we're still always increasing because we never go back. So now when we should update the sign to be minus, so we can say if current depth is equal to k, right? Because we do need to reach k, right? The depth is 4 and k is 4. So if current depth is 4, current sign equals -1. And of course now we reach 0, and then we keep going. So in case of going back and forth. Okay, and I think we actually want to do k minus 1 because okay, so this is why it's kind of nice again to do things. Okay, good. Okay, now what I do if current depth equals 0, clearly we don't want to go below 0, so current sign equals +1. And now the depths are actually correct, right? They go 0, 1, 2, 3, and then back again, down to 1. Okay, so now we have the depth. Now can we generate the string? Can we generate the actual string with spaces? So this should be pretty easy. So we do this, def generate we'll do generate the zigzag because that's kind of nicer than printing it out. We can always print it later and we can always change things around. Generate and then input string, or let's call it text, and k. So the first thing we'll do is depth equal generate depth of k len of text, and then now we know that every character needs to be printed only when it's its depth, and otherwise we need to print a space. So that's pretty easy. And then let's do return string, and I'll write code that's not very efficient here. We can always improve the efficiency, but we'll talk about efficiency a bit later. For I in range k. Okay, so let's do this. At the end, clearly we want to add a new line to the string. And here we want to do for. So we'll do this. We'll do. What do we want to loop on? We want to loop on enumerate because we want to know the index to know if it's the. Do we need the index? I'm not sure I need the index. Let's see. So we'll zip the text and depth. And so we have a character and a D. In this. And what we want to do is do this. If D is equal to I, if this is the right depth, then we add the character. Else, we add a space. And finally, we return the string. Return with str. And just like before, we'll put generate zigzag. This is zigzag. And 4. And let's print it so it looks a bit nicer and easier to read. Ploop, ploop, ploop. Okay, and this is zigzag, and this is what we wanted. This is a zigzag. So I just made mistake in the input string, but if I did this is a zigzag. Okay, cool. So this looks like it solved the problem, right? And you might think, oh, this is how you solve. Now, if you actually get this problem interview, this is a good first version. And let me tell you what the interviewer is almost certainly going to tell you. But this takes space, right? You generate a list of depth as per the space, and you don't actually need to generate this much stuff, right? Okay, well, so clearly you also generate this, but this we could easily change with print, right? So we could just do sys.stdout.write instead, loop, sys.stdout.write ploop. I'm probably gonna change it before we end, but this is kind of a nice proof of concept that we don't. Okay, now we of course can remove this print. Let's try this. Okay, well, let's import this. So let's do this. Yeah, let's just import this right here. Floop, import this. Okay. Right, so now we don't generate a long string, and we can remove this line because we don't need it anymore. But now probably like someone will ask you, what about generate depth? And you notice that you can actually do this, right? And this doesn't look like a big win, right? It actually looks like a loss. Well, now you generate depth each step. But you notice that that actually does not change big O performance, because this is a loop on n, this is a loop on n, and doesn't even change total space consumption, because as soon as you remove depth in one place, then you recreate it, so you don't actually generate too much space. But now we notice that you only iterate on each return value from generate depth once, which means we can change this to a generator. So instead of append, we can change this to yield. Remove the return statement. Now this debug will have to change to list, but I just changed the debug code. But you see, it's very useful to see the debug code, because we see that. And now, and if you think about it, we actually can, we don't have to do sysstdout here, right? We can do yield this, right? So it becomes a pure function. Yield, ploop. It doesn't have any side effects. But then of course we'll need to do print dot join, generate zigzag, right? And now we turned both functions into generators, right? Which is a great trick in Python. Like, this is like the #1 trick that sorry. So this is the #1 trick that I would say you should learn. How to turn code into generators. Generators super powerful, especially for refactoring concerns. Like here you can see that without any loss of performance, I managed to refactor the concerns of figuring out which characters, right? And printing them out, right? If I wanted to print them to a file or anything like that, I don't need to insert a callback here or do anything like that, and I don't have to lose any performance. And this is actually more efficient than passing in a callback, because I only do print once and I do join here. So this is pretty much as efficient as you can get. And now we have the right big O performance, right? So if you think about, you know, what we have to do here, we have to print either way k times n characters, right? And What did I want to say? Yeah, right. So we have to print anyway k times n characters. So anyway, the performance can't be any better than k times n, right? Because this is the length of the output. You cannot have something that's better performance than the length of the output. So now let's kind of say that your interviewer is like reasonably impressed, you solved the problem, but now they want to challenge you a bit more. So if I was the interviewer and I want to challenge you a bit more, I would say, well, yes, you're right, you got the right big O performance, but you actually generate the wrong output because you put the spaces after the last character and you don't actually need those. So how would we avoid needing to put spaces? So I would say we can just remember how many spaces we need to yield, but only yield them when we have a character. So we can do something like this. Yield from spaces, and then reset spaces. To do it, otherwise, space dot append and we can change that to obviously let's do this and see how if it works right, and then we can talk about improving this even more. Spaces is not defined because it's spaces, right? And now if we kind of put like a little thing at the end, then you can see that I don't put any extra spaces. Right? This is clearly not part of the output, but this is a nice way to debug and check that like I don't have any extra thing, right? But now someone can say, well, yes, but now you have extra space in the length of OK, and what is k is big, big, big. So that's fine. We can do this. Ignored in range spaces. Let's do just this. Yield from right, so we just spaces equal 0, and instead of spaces append, let's see, int object is not iterable, in range spaces, and this is zigzag. And as you can see, again, the trick of using an iterator, right? So I think this is pretty much the best solution I can generate to this. Let me know if you think I have missed a trick, but this generate depth, it doesn't take any space. This generates the characters, doesn't take any extra space. At each point it will only yield one character, and doesn't use any non-constant amount of space. And that's it, right? We can generate zigzag. And I think this is it for me. So thank you all for joining us. Now turn off my stream. Dear, my face was cut off. Oh well.